Hello, it's me. I want to talk to you about my experience with MasterCard. It was very crappy. And not just MasterCard, but National Bank. So what happened was, with National Bank, I got a mortgage. And with that mortgage, I had they had signed me up for a credit card that I didn't know about until about 4 weeks ago. At which time, or about 3 weeks ago, at which time the only reason I found out, and this was 2 years ago apparently, but the only reason I found out that it existed today is because they called me from a collection company saying that I owed money on a card I'd never activated. Curious, right? So then I'm thinking, well, maybe it's fraud, maybe someone just signed up for a credit card. But no, what they did was they automatically signed me up in my mortgage for a credit card, of which typically, even if they did, I didn't sign up for a credit card. I did not sign an application or, at the very least, call in and activate the credit card so it can be used. So, and they have no record of that either. But yet they have a $175 fee. Curious. But you know what's even also curious is they signed me up for a credit card that has annual fees. But then they justified it by saying that they would pay the first year's annual fee so that I don't have to pay for anything up front. Curious how that works. So this scheme, which it's a scheme, is about getting people to pay money for a product that they never purchased or used or activated, and they won't know about it until the collection company calls them. So anyways, the long and the short of it is, this imaginary card that never was emailed to my home address and I was never notified about is now, they're charging me $125 for a year's, because the last year was free apparently, and then this year was $125. And so now they went ahead and they put the stuff on my credit report, and has the collection company calling me, which is the only reason I even know it existed. So that's just the beginning of it. So yeah, now they're not very smart, like they didn't figure out their systems correctly, and they're not able to truly communicate between departments, which is kind of pathetic, because this is a company that makes millions, billions of dollars a year off of hardworking Canadians, Americans, and everyone else who has a credit card. And frankly, I can understand if they had good service, but frankly, they're more or less defrauding us by putting us into these little schemes, which inevitably result in a conflict that if I didn't want to go after, I would just pay the $125. But frankly, it's BS that this should even happen. I should not be owing $125 to someone for nothing. That's not how this works. But more importantly, it wasn't even something that I acknowledged and accepted as something that I wanted. It was forced upon me, and now the problem is forced upon me, and I have to fix this, and they're making it the most difficult thing in the world. You know, after not only calling them, asking them, they would not give me any of my information because I didn't have a card, so I didn't know what the number of the card was. So I was on the phone for about 4 hours with them, for them finally to say, oh, you have to go to the National Bank branch in Brampton to get this all sorted out, which is fine, but I live in Orangeville, so it's kind of a piss off. Anyway, so I go to the National Bank and I wait there. Manager doesn't show up. I finally get someone from in the branch to come and help me. Like, thank God she took off, she actually took a portion of her lunch off to help me. So she was great, except for the fact that she had no clue what the heck was going on or how to fix the problem. So she ends up calling MasterCard. I'm sitting in her office, and we're calling from her office MasterCard, which was great, except that they refused to acknowledge the fact that they were at fault, and but also their compromise was, okay, well, we'll only charge you half of it, but you have to sign up for another credit card with us before we can do all of that information, because we want to sign you up for a credit card that doesn't have a yearly fee, and then we'll cancel that credit card, but we'll only be able to refund you $75 for half of the year, because technically the full year hasn't happened yet. So as I mentioned, this has been going on for 2 years, and I didn't know about it. The first year was apparently free. This is the half or so year left, and so they're going to refund me like $75. These people are just ridiculous. And so anyways, so that's the best that they can do. Then I contact them once I get, before I get the card, asking them what's going on, because I haven't gotten that card back, because that's all they could do at that time. And to be honest, I had an appointment, so I couldn't stay there and argue much more, but I would have. And so what ends up happening is MasterCard calls me up again saying, oh, you're late on this $125 and all this other stuff. Then the funny part was, so they're saying all this stuff, then I said, well, I want to speak to a manager. No manager, no call, no nothing. This is a week later, and then I get a refused application for the credit card that MasterCard sent to me. And the reason for their refusal is because of this other credit card that I never activated, that I never paid the annual, half of the annual fee for this year. What? Crazy. So then this is what happens. So I get this other credit card back, refused. The next 2 days later, I get an application for a different credit card from a different credit card company. So they refuse, but then they don't. Anyways, so both MasterCards, by the way. So MasterCard clearly doesn't have its crap together either, but National Bank is also clearly at fault because, well, they did a very poor job of doing whatever, right? So the long and the short of it is, at this point, I've called them again. No manager has called me back since they said they would call me back. I spoke to the collection company. They said they would put it on record and give me a call back. Nothing. And now I'm going to be calling them back, trying to figure out how this all works. And the worst part of it all is, this happens to be at the exact same time that I want to refinance. I'm refinancing one of my homes. So just, it's complete BS. Now imagine all of this happened to someone who couldn't rant and rave about it, or didn't have the time or the patience to go through this whole process. They would pay that $125 and they'd say, well, it's done, so I paid it off, and walk away. But the problem is that it affects your credit score. And when something like that affects your credit score, you would be so surprised how that will affect any future type of transactions you need that require any substantial amount of equity or credit. So in essence, credit score is so important, and these people aren't just messing around with your wallet, they're messing around with your life. Your financial resume is your credit score. So you cannot allow these people to get away with it, because frankly, you know what? Pie in the sky, politicians fix the problem and then tell these credit card companies where to stick it. But you know what? I'm not against business. I love business. But when business is defrauding people who don't deserve it, it's totally uncool and it needs to stop. And I'm hoping this video has some type of effect. You know what? Actually, this is a great idea. Everyone who has had experience like this, do me a favor and make a video just like this, and then hashtag MasterCard, hashtag National Bank, hashtag any other institution that has been screwing you around, because this is the only way that they're going to get it, because social media is the future, and by communicating effectively and having, well, I have some weird music in the background, but hey, it's working. No matter what, if we don't stand up for ourselves, no one will. So post something, write something, tell your story. Don't be ashamed about the credit, these collection companies calling you, because you know what? It's not always your fault. Yes, if you haven't made your payments and all this other stuff, but in many instances, when I meet with people, they have issues like this, and it is completely not their fault. It is the fault of the lending institution. It is the fault of whoever is lending out this debt using unethical practices to get you in more debt so that you can never pay them off, and then you end up in the long term get a lot worse off than you think. So it wouldn't just be the $125, it wouldn't just be all of these other expenses that come upon you, but now when you go to get a mortgage, or when you go to buy a house, or when you go to get a car, or when you go to do any type of financing whatsoever for a business, guess what? They're going to laugh at you, because they're going to say, oh, well, clearly you're not a trustworthy person, your credit score says so, and this is how it goes. But that's, of course, because I make my payments consistently. It's something I really push to make sure I'm always on it. So does my wife. And yet, my credit score can be affected by almost 50 to 75 points because of issues like this. That's huge. 650 is the threshold for getting a mortgage. If I was at 700 or 750 and I could get two of those things done, I'm wiped out. Even 700 to under 650, boom, I can't get a mortgage anymore. So this is important. I know this is a long rant, but I just wanted to emphasize that, you know, these are not things you can stand for. These are not things that you can allow. And for me, it's always more important to protect your credit. You know, I would pay the 125, but I'm also afraid that that's going to be an admission of guilt, which is untrue. And then they're going to go and put that on my credit score anyways, because they're going to say, oh, it's settled, which is worse. You need them to delete it off your credit score entirely. There cannot be a remnants of it on your credit score, because no matter what happens, if it says settled, you know, satisfied, all of that stuff is horse. You don't deal with that. You get rid of it completely. And you want a letter from that institution saying that this is what's happened, because if you don't have a record of it, of a signed and documented letterhead saying that, you know, our company was at fault, it's been completely removed from the credit score, well, guess what? The bureau is going to do nothing about it, because they don't care about you. They care about the people who are pretty much paying them to keep all of this stuff up and running. And then, like, I could go on forever, but the system needs to be changed. The system needs to be improved. This is totally not working for the Canadian, not working for other people. I know the credit bureau and the way credit's run in the States is probably worse, but that could be just me. I think I've heard that it was pretty bad, almost worse than Canadian, but still, it's still unacceptable here. Again, this whole Bernie Sanders thing it's true. Like, capitalism is crushing the average person, and they're doing it because there's so much money at the top that is so incentivized by us being pushed down. My credit score being low means that every lender who has the money to lend is now getting a better interest rate, even though I'm a higher quality, I have a higher on average credit score than most. So because of that reason, you know, I really am, I'm a very dependable person to lend to, yet I'm going to be categorized as a lower rate because credit card companies and collection companies are abusing the privileges and abusing, well, they're betraying the ethics of the whole process. So it's totally unacceptable. We should all do something about it, and this is my way of contributing. Thank you.